Everyone in FIRE talks about the 4% rule, that magic number that makes sure you never run out of money in early retirement. But what if following that rule means you die with a multi-million dollar pile of cash you never got to use? I don't want to do that, and I have no desire to leave a legacy either. If that's you, or you're somewhere in the middle, in this video, I walk through a couple scenarios I've been considering. Namely, what it looks like if I follow the 4% rule, aim to die with zero, or split the difference and plan to die with half of my nest egg. So the first thing I wanted to show is just my understanding of the 4% rule. So I have this retirement calculator here, and I just entered the input, how many years until you retire. So we're just saying we retired this year. 45, I chose that. In a previous video, I kind of calculated my life expectancy based on history and family and lifestyle. And I estimate to be about 45 years, so age 85, but I put 45 here just to keep it easy because I'm actually 41. Anyway, my understanding of the 4% rule is that it's based on sort of a 6% return. Annual inflation rate, I'm doing zero for now just to really showcase my limited understanding of how that works. I understood that the 6% rule accounts for inflation. And so, yeah, I'll do zero for now, and then another tab I'll do 2% because that's the other way I understood it. So basically, to give you some background, I mostly didn't focus on the withdrawal part when I was starting my FIRE journey because reaching the FIRE number was just such a far off target. I just thought I'd figure it out when I got here, and now I'm here and I'm figuring it out. And I wanted to share you all. I wanted to include you all in for the ride. So anyway, based on the 4% rule, let's say my nest egg is about $1 million, which it is. To live off of that, 4% would mean $40,000 a year. And like I said, my nest egg is $1 million. And do you want to have any money left? We'll look at that later. So if we use the general 4% rule as I first understood it, this is how much money we'd have left. That's $4 million. I don't want that. So let's look at the schedule so you can take a look and see. So it shows you just with these input, if you spend 45 years in retirement, you have $1 million saved. Annual interest rate, annual growth, we'll say 6%, inflation 0. If you're withdrawing $40,000 a year, after 45 years in retirement, you're going to have $4 million left, like almost $5 million left. That's bonkers. I don't want that. I have no one to leave it to. And even if I did, that's a lot. To only spend 40K a year to have $4 million left after 45 just seems ludicrous. So the other thing, just for the sake of argument, I'll show you is, okay, so you're saying the other way I understood it was kind of 6% will outpace the 4% you're withdrawing. And so for that, I just kind of concluded a 2% inflation rate. And these are projections. Sometimes you just have to put a number in something. And just as an anecdote, I don't feel as though, I think currently we'll just do a quick search. I didn't plan to do this, but average inflation rate. I think when I looked before, it was around 3%. We'll just do the last 10 years. So it's between about 3%, which is what I thought. I haven't personally experienced that. So when I do my calculations, I just kind of split the difference and do 1.5 because I'm basing it on the average, but also on my personal experience. And the other data point I have, again, anecdotally, the original inspiration for my early retirement came from following this stranger on the internet. And when I look at his updates, I'll show you. His was based on, I think they had $1 million when he retired, and he's been retired for over 10 years, and they're still following 40K a year. So I'm saying all that to say, sorry, my mouse is slow, and excuse the city noise, but I just like having the window open. So for over a decade of being retired, they have still managed to keep their spending under the 40K that they started out with in 2014. So I'm saying all that to say you just have to be able to maintain some level of flexibility and make dynamicness. I don't know. Be dynamic. Be willing to accept that your plans can be dynamic and you have to be flexible. So that's why I've kind of not really followed the 3% inflation, or I think I'm just going to plan for it as I go along. So the summary of this is this man retired in 2013 with $1 million, and using the 4% rule, his withdrawal rate would have been 40K. He hasn't changed it in over 10 years. And even though inflation is supposed to be 3% a year, they've managed to stay under that. So that's just another data point. I don't know why my mouse is so wonky. All right, so back to that. But let's just say you wanted to do the 2% as your inflation rate to kind of, just say, okay, well, it's 6% I'm withdrawing for, will at least keep my money. But even doing that, you'll see you still have $1.7 million left at the time of your death at age 85. That's a lot of money. My personal story going into this, I'm solo. I'm already 41. I'll be 42 in about 5 months. I don't have any nieces or nephews. My parents are passed away. I have like one brother who, I mean, I'm sure he'd appreciate it, but it's not really, I don't feel a sense of um, obligation or duty to leave it to him. And it's not something he's expecting either. And he's older, so chances are I'll probably outlive him. So that's what got me kind of thinking like, that's a lot of money to leave behind. And while I want the financial security, I also don't want to be underspending. So the next thing I did was look at, well, what if I wanted to have no money left? In this case, I put a dollar because I wasn't sure if a zero would mess up the calculations. So I wanted to see how that would increase or affect my ability to withdraw. So here, again, we're saying I'm retired right now. I'm going to spend 45 years retired, and I'm going to go with an annual interest rate of about 9% because that's in truth what I've been experiencing. And then I just chose an inflation rate, like I said, just 1.5% seemed to be an arbitrary but good number to reflect my actual spending and how inflation has affected the things that I spend money on. And we'll estimate my nest egg to be about $1 million. So if I want $1 left, this calculator shows me that I can spend about $71,000 each year, which is amazing. That's almost twice as much as the 40. It's about 75% more, I would say, which to me, I don't anticipate spending 71,000, but it brought me so much peace of mind of like, I don't have to be locked into the life I chose now and the expense level I chose now. I have actual room to enjoy the money I spent so much saving. Like this number to me feels a little bit, it's very high because I've never, even when I was working and making a high salary, I never spent this much in expenses ever. And if you want, you can look back at my previous videos. I have videos on all the things, how much I've saved, earned over the last 9 years. So yeah, if I wanted to die with zero, essentially, I have room to spend starting with $70,000 my first year. And it looks like that first decade I can spend between 70 and 80,000. The next 10 years it looks like between 80 and 90, and so on to the point where I'm 85 and spending $138,000. That just seems wild. But again, the level of security I felt with that was worth it. So I do anticipate upping my annual spend every year just based on this. I don't know that I'll ever go up to 70, but I know that if I needed to, I could, in theory, be comfortable with it, whether or not in execution that's the case. But I like knowing that there's a lot more room and cushion in my withdrawal number and that my nest egg provides me. And again, I think the thing to know is that you just have to be willing to be flexible. Because if, the market does have a downturn, I think I would probably be more comfortable at the 4% because that's where the study and the data lies. But yeah, this just opened up a whole new world of possibility. And so the other thing I was going to do, I was like, well, gosh, this is a ton of money. Like, I don't even see a need. I don't actually know how much different my life would be If I were able to spend $138,000, let's just even say 80 in my 40s, there's nothing I think that spending more would really do in terms of quality of life. I think right now the only thing I'm coveting is a balcony, and I certainly don't need $40,000 to get an apartment with a balcony. So just to put it into perspective, this is definitely life changing money, but it wouldn't change the quality of my life or the things I buy in this moment with any significance, because I don't see myself suddenly wanting to go on a 40K a year shopping spree every single year forever. So it's more of a mental security than anything, at least in this moment. Who knows? I might wake up at 50 and just be like, blow that dough, you know? So the other thing I wanted to show was, let's say I wanted to have, I was just curious, like, okay, well, what if I didn't want to blow the dough and end with nothing? What would it look like to have, if I started with 1 million and just planned to have half of my nest egg, just to have, because running out of money doesn't sound fun, you know? So I wanted to see what the difference would be. So same parameters as before, 45 years in retirement, interest rate of about 9% or growth of about 9%, inflation of 1.5, starting with about $1 million of a nest egg, planning to leave about half of that after 45 years of retirement. And if you adjust for inflation, it just makes this number go up in the end. So the way that looks is this. So these are the parameters, and it's still the same. So kind of still withdrawing about 70,000. So let's say my first 10 years, it's about 70 to 8, like high 70s. And then the next 10 years, it's about 80,000 to 90,000. And the next 10 years is about a little over 100,000. So I would say not much different. Let's see if we can compare these together. Hopefully it doesn't, it opened in two different windows. It did. Okay. So let's just look at them. This is dying with zero, so $1 left, and this is dying with $500,000 left in my account. How much more spending is it? So as you can see, to me, it's not that much different. So for peace of mind and not necessarily wanting the feeling of having, as much as I would love, you know, to be able to predict my untimely demise in exactly 45 years, who can really say? So, since the amount that you're spending each year doesn't actually, the difference is so negligible to me, I think I would go with the leaving $500,000 at the end, versus trying to die with zero. So, I feel like that's a good compromise. You do start to see your nest egg go down. I think it'll hurt to see it go from having the double comma. So that would happen in 2062 here. Let's see, when does it happen here? 2057. So you get an extra 5 years. But gosh, how many years is that? 2062. How old will I be? It's like 30 years. I'll be 70. I don't think I'll care. Maybe I will. So yeah, that accounts for, you know, maybe there'll be a sudden increase of living, any kind of like assisted living. I do plan to live in a really swanky over 55 community when I'm in my 60s or 70s though. So that'll be fun to be able to just be that, you know, wealthy old lady spending tons of money on like costume jewelry. But yeah, I just wanted to present that to give people, well, just to share part of my journey of how I'm approaching withdrawal, because I've spent the last 9 years accumulating. And during the accumulation phase, um, I spent a lot of time reworking my number. So I guess I can't expect anything different in the withdrawal phase, because there were times when I saved a lot and times where life came up and I couldn't save that much. So I imagine retirement and withdrawing will probably look the same. So yeah, it's comforting to know that blowing that dough doesn't look that much different than actually saving it. It is a little bit more different than going with that strict 4% rule. So I think I'm comfortable with somewhere in the middle. But I'd love to know what you all think. Feel free to comment, post. Thank you.